Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Imagine telling someone the biggest, most life changing news of your life, and their first reaction is basically, "Yeah, I don't believe you." Yeah, things got messy real fast. Electra finally confesses a secret she's been hiding. She's pregnant, but instead of support, Will reacts with disbelief, questioning whether the baby is even his and demanding proof, turning an emotional moment into the beginning of a painful conflict. Electra had been carrying a secret that felt heavier with every passing day. It was the kind of secret that doesn't just sit quietly in your mind, it grows louder, more impossible to hide. Every time she saw Will, every time they spoke, the truth pressed harder against her conscience. She knew the moment would come when she had to say it out loud. When the moment finally arrived, it changed everything. One late afternoon, Electra asked Will to meet her somewhere quiet, not a crowded cafe, not anywhere their friends might accidentally overheard them, somewhere private. Will assumed this meeting was just another conversation about the recent chaos between them. Their relationship had already been strained by misunderstandings, jealousy, and the kind of rumors that spread quickly in their social circle. He walked in expecting an argument, maybe even another emotional discussion about where things were going wrong. But what Electra had to say was far bigger than any argument. For a long moment, she stood there in silence, trying to steady herself. Her hands trembled slightly as she gathered the courage she had spent days trying to build. The quiet between them stretched painfully long until she finally took a deep breath and spoke. "I'm pregnant." The words seemed to freeze the air around them. Will stared at her as if he hadn't heard correctly. The sentence hung there, refusing to fade away. But instead of reacting with excitement, worry, or even panic, his face filled with confusion. "Pregnant?" he repeated slowly, clearly struggling to process what she had just said. Electra noted, her eyes already shining with emotion. She had imagined this moment over and over in her mind. She had prepared for anger, fear, maybe even reluctant support, but she hadn't prepared for the expression she was seeing now: cold disbelief. "And you are the father," she added quietly. That statement triggered an immediate shift in Will. Instead of moving closer to her, he stepped backward, almost as if the claim itself had pushed him away. "No," he said firmly. "That can't be right." Electra felt her heart sink instantly. This was exactly the reaction she had feared most. Will had always been stubborn, someone who needed control over every situation. But hearing him deny the possibility so quickly felt like a deep betrayal. "What do you mean it's not possible?" she asked, her voice trembling with frustration. Bill began pacing slightly, running his hand through his hair as his mind raced through memories. He thought about the nights they had spent together, the emotional chaos of their relationship, the passion mixed with confusion. But something about the suddenness of Electra's announcement didn't sit right with him. "You can't just tell me something like this and expect me to believe it immediately," he said. "There must be some kind of mistake." Electra's frustration began boiling over. She had spent days building the courage to share this truth. She had hoped, at the very least, that he would listen before dismissing her. "There's no mistake," she insisted firmly. "I took the test twice." But instead of reassuring him, the statement only deepened Will's doubts. Their world had always been complicated, filled with secrets, betrayals, and unexpected twists. In a place where the truth was often hidden behind half truths, he couldn't ignore the nagging suspicion that something didn't add up. "You might be sure you're pregnant," he said cautiously, "but that doesn't automatically mean I am the father." Electra stared at him in shock. The implication behind his words hurt more than she expected. "You think I'm lying?" she asked quietly. I think there's more going on here than you're telling me, Will replied. That accusation hit Electra like a slap. Tears began forming in her eyes, fueled by both anger and heartbreak. She had come here hoping for understanding, maybe even comfort. Instead, she was being treated like someone hiding a secret. You know exactly what happened between us, she said, raising her voice. You were there, Will. Will didn't deny their history. The relationship had been messy and emotional, full of blurred lines and impulsive decisions. But there was one thought he couldn't shake. What about Dylan? He suddenly asked. The name instantly changed the atmosphere between them. Electra's face hardened. Dylan had been the subject of rumors for weeks. People had noticed them spending time together, and gossip had started building theories that Electra insisted weren't true. There is nothing going on with Dylan, she said sharply. But you have been with him a lot lately, Will argued. That doesn't mean anything, she shot back. Within seconds, the conversation exploded into a heated argument. Voices rose, emotions spilled out, and both of them stood their ground. From Electra's perspective, the situation was painfully simple. She had told the truth and expected him to trust her. But from Will's perspective, the situation was full of unanswered questions. Eventually, he drew a firm line. I'm not saying you're lying about the pregnancy, he said. But I'm not accepting that I'm the father without proof. Electra blinked in disbelief. Proof? She repeated. Yes, Will said firmly. A DNA test. The suggestion shocked her, even though deep down she probably should have expected it. In a world where trust had been broken so many times, science had become the only proof people relied on. After a long moment of silence, Electra wiped her tears and nodded. Fine, she said quietly, if that's what you need. But the emotional damage had already been done. What should have been a moment that brought them closer had instead pushed them farther apart. Soon the news of Electra's pregnancy began spreading among their friends and acquaintances. Reactions were mixed. Some people sympathized with Electra, believing she deserved support during such a vulnerable moment. Others quietly wondered if Will's doubt might be justified. Meanwhile, Will struggled with conflicting feelings. Part of him felt guilty for reacting so harshly, but another part remained suspicious, especially with Dylan's name launching in the background. Electra, on the other hand, returned to her apartment later that evening feeling completely alone. She sat at the kitchen counter, staring at the pregnancy test that had changed everything. Just days earlier, she had taken it out of curiosity after noticing strange symptoms exhaustion, nausea, emotional swings she couldn't explain. When the positive result appeared, her heart had raced with fear and disbelief. Now that reality had settled in, the future suddenly felt much heavier. A baby meant responsibility. It meant a life that could no longer revolve around just her choices. And with Will refusing to stand beside her, that future felt even more overwhelming. In a world where secrets rarely stay hidden, one truth was becoming painfully clear. This shocking confession wasn't the end of the story. It was only the beginning of a much bigger storm. This revelation has already created a wave of suspicion and emotional damage that could permanently change relationships in their entire circle. Honestly, this situation is heartbreaking. Electra deserved empathy in that moment, but Will's demand for proof shows just how fragile trust has become between them. So now the big question is, do you think Will is right to ask for a DNA test, or should he have trusted Electra from the start? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you enjoy dramatic story breakdowns like this, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more.